Suburban expansion in the US has come in several different ways. You got the older suburbs on the inside of metropolitan areas with nice little houses, and then the big houses on the outside of cities that have no trees and are realistically kind of ugly. Sorry for calling you guys out, 50% of my viewers. You have HOAs with big clubhouses that are often gated, and one of my favorite types that come out of this are retirement communities. There's something so funny about golf carts going everywhere and the urban design in place in a lot of these places. Probably the most iconic retirement community in the US would be the Villages in Florida, which has been designed in a fascinating way that's worth looking into. Among these usually peculiar designs is a lack of sidewalks, which reflects a lot of what this city is. So today we're going to look into it and this fascinating community and why they've made the choices to become what they are. Before I get into the video though, please consider subscribing to the channel. We make geography content like this every week, so if you enjoy the videos I make on here, it would mean a ton if you would subscribe. Thank you. The idea of a retirement community is seen all throughout the US, sure, but the idea of large-scale private retirement cities is less common than you think. A big one that comes to mind is Sun City, Arizona. This city, located to the northwest of downtown Phoenix, works with the design of copy-pasted circles everywhere, golf courses filling the gaps, and long, lanky suburban streets everywhere else. To explain this properly, if you enter the city on Del Webb Boulevard and just go straight, it goes north, turns right, turns into Lindgren Avenue, does a big loop-de-loop, turns into Burns Drive, keeps turning, and finally ends at Del Webb Boulevard, which, if you'll remember from 10 seconds ago, is the same road. Each of these sprawling circles has something in the center, whether that be a little strip mall, a rec center, or churches, which are actually in most of them. And then outside the circles and rather along the arterial roads, there's a ton of fast food, chain stores, and commercial development that can be enjoyed by the whole family. The urban design is lacking, sure, and the main goal here is really just to give the residents something to do on a daily basis. So there's virtually no pedestrian infrastructure, and it's been perfectly catered toward the retirement community that lives there, and it cares a lot less about dense urban communities. There's also Sun City West, a Sun City Hilton Head in South Carolina, Laguna Woods Village in California, and then obviously a ton more in Florida. And what I'm trying to say here and get at is that designing these communities just presents an entirely different situation. So let's go back to the Villages and talk about maybe the strangest of them all. Here it is. The Villages is located just under 20 miles to the south of Ocala, its closest large city. As well as that, it's a 1-hour drive from downtown Orlando and can be included in that extended metropolitan area, as suburban expansion fully connects it. Zooming in, it actually encompasses 57 square miles of communities, but it's not just one big connected family. There's actually 17 quote-unquote unique neighborhoods, and they're all run by different councils and have their own rules, leading me to believe an old person gang war is imminent. The Villages is home to 3 parking lots, town squares, each of which have their own little shopping areas and a ton of nightly events. And then obviously they have their biggest rule, which is that nobody under the age of 55 is allowed to reside in the community, besides obviously family members of people beyond that age. But that's a tiny portion of the population. But something I find incredibly important about this whole city is how the transportation is designed. When designing a normal city, the focus is on every demographic of the population. You're attempting to design a city that can properly support both young, more mobile people, and older people or those with disabilities. You balance that out and it creates a diverse set of designs. In the Villages though, it's one of the only communities where you are specifically designing for one age demographic. You don't need to design a walkable city that people can viably get around without vehicles, and you don't need to worry about playgrounds, skate parks, and so much more. So this has resulted in a lack of sidewalk infrastructure. There are no sidewalks designed into residential neighborhoods anywhere, or even most commercial areas. That's purposefully not what this is catered toward. The only places that I have found sidewalks are specifically within the town squares, where walkability is at least a little bit worried about. But that doesn't take them far, which I'll talk more about later on. So sidewalks are almost non-existent, but this is not to say there aren't trails and ways to get around. Instead, the Villages uses a transportation option I actually kind of love, which is golf carts. There's an insane 100-mile network of golf cart trails, and a bulk of the population here takes their golf carts everywhere, like to one of the 241 pickleball courts or 56 golf courses. A lot of these trails will go along the main roads, leading to pretty much everywhere in town. And honestly, this does bring up the thought that if it went with sidewalks and was more for bikes, it would actually be a pretty nice and connected community. A lot of these residents will go entire summers without even using their cars. There's even specific roundabouts just for the golf carts, and some signalized intersections when they reach the main roads. That's next level stuff. People can get around without using large cars, and yeah, the golf cart costs like 5 to 10 grand, but I guess it could be worse. So the focus then becomes on golf carts rather than walking. The target demographic is uninterested in using that as a real option, so there's virtually no reason to build and maintain the concrete required for sidewalks. I then get to talk about the beautiful town squares, which are an amazing example of this fake urbanist environment, where they did put effort into making it feel like a city, but when you really look into it, it just doesn't hold up. Look at Lake Sumter Landing, for example. The downtown area has businesses along the road, Central Plaza, and great access to the water. It actually does a great job at being designed as a city. But one main thing that urbanism requires is a focus on people rather than cars. And even with the opportunity to make it fully golf cart focused, they could do that. But they still weren't able to achieve it. Now, I am a big supporter of placing the parking lot behind the buildings to maintain the urban fabric along the road, but when you look at the satellite and see the parking, it's really hard to ignore. The paved concrete outweighs the actual buildings by a wide margin. And even if you look past that, every single road is lined with on-street parking, so it wasn't even enough. If we go down to Brownwood Paddock Square, it quite literally looks like a shopping mall with the way this town square is surrounded by parking and has a loop road. I mean, what's the difference between these two places on screen? You can't tell me it's anything more than an outdoor mall, which is one of the top car-oriented commercial designs in the past century. Okay, but instead of dogging on the community more, it's important to cover the achievements. I mean, you can't fault the retirees, they love it here. The community was first designed in the 1960s by a businessman, and growth was slow until around 2000 when it had 8,000 residents. This is around when it became a recognized community and exploded in population, gaining 517% to 51,000 in 2010 and 80,000 in 2020, and that's just the recognized population. Between all the retirement communities, over 108,000 people live here, and it's continuing to expand across this entire area. The latest expansion is in the far south past the Florida Turnpike, where over 13 square miles of land is being developed. It's just an incredibly unique situation. Where else do you find an entire community catered towards one age group? You don't, and that's why it obviously is going to be different. If you're young, you can look and hate on this, but my 60-year-old viewers, and honestly me too, are looking at it and it sounds like a blast to ride my golf cart around and golf and play pickleball every day. I mean, that's the dream right there. Thanks for watching. Thank you to the members this week: the Autistic City Skylines fan, Richard Horwell, Florida Jake, Ayuda, RFP Rail fan, Nathan Nougat, Dutch Vanderland, Big Golden Yoshi fan, James Cermak, Rob R, Big Pasty, Jameson Headley, Colonel Potter, Eric Harris, their JC17, Jerome McCall, The Baked Fruit, Andres Quintero, Jesse Cook, JL, Richard Law, Alexander Lichko, Laura Halliday, Charles Watson, Aiden Kyles, A Happy Holiday, Grant Dickerson, Midwest Rail fan, Mick Kastner, D, Stephen Phillips, CJ Brick, Resident Contrarian, Haas of the Wolf, Brock Sanders, Stephen Pritzman, SB Wilder, Alex Williams, Mickey Martinoff, Kurt Ainsley, KMS162, Bryson, Rosewood 4, Darkbird, Wolfling73, Snyder's Benjamin Whitings, and Ryan Devins. I appreciate you all so much. If you want to become a member, the link is down in the description below. I'm still uploading City Skylines content, and I actually really love that series, and I'd love if more people would watch it. So if you appreciate the content and you want to do one extra thing to help me out, this is the best way to do it. Thank you so much.